Warning: this video contains spoilers for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. When I think about the events of Breath of the Wild, the way I sort of like to remember the story, it's a story about how Link, the chosen hero, fell in battle when Calamity Ganon was attacking Hyrule, and then Zelda, after having awakened her powers of the goddess, was finally able to communicate with Fi and the Master Sword, and she was able to relay to Zelda how to bring the hero back, and he was sent to the Shrine of Resurrection, went through the slumber of restoration, he was awakened after 100 years, and he came back. He saved Hyrule, he saved Zelda, they're in love, they go on and live happily ever after as they focus on restoring Hyrule back to its former glory. That's how I like to envision the story for Breath of the Wild. But what if I told you there's a possibility that something else happened, something a little different, something a little darker? What if the Link that we come to know and love in Breath of the Wild isn't actually the Link we come to know and love in Breath of the Wild? What if the Link we learn about in the memories and the books and the conversations and the history of Hyrule is actually dead the entire time and never actually comes back? Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart. So, this is a theory I've actually been sort of thinking about for quite some time, and I know, I'm going to talk about it because I want to talk about it. I haven't really seen anyone focus on exactly what I'm going to say this time around, so I'm going to talk about it, and I want you guys to sort of let me know what you guys think, because I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you, but I'm going to present you guys my ideas and some facts, and hopefully you can come to a conclusion. So, as I sort of explained in my introduction, Link fell in battle, because of the guardians that were consumed by the darkness or power and control of Ganon, and he fell in battle. Zelda awakened her powers of the goddess of Hylia, and she stopped the guardians, but Link at that moment fell down. And then we see a guardian sort of flickering pink, and that could sort of be used as symbolism for Link's heart as it's fading, flickering, but still kind of there. And then, all of a sudden, after Zelda awakens her powers of the goddess for the very first time, the Master Sword starts flickering towards her, which is the power of Fi, and maybe because she has the powers awakened, she has the spirituality or the knowledge of Goddess of Hylia, she's actually able to communicate with Fi and Master Sword, because that Goddess of Hylia is the one who created Fi, and she tells Link to go restore him in the Shrine of Resurrection. Okay, that's fine. But even if Link died, which has a Shrine of Resurrection, that naming, I think it kind of suggests that Link actually died. He literally died. Like, if this was in the real world, like, he would have been clinically dead. And, when that does happen in the real world, when someone's clinically or medically dead, if they come back, they come back within a short amount of time. That's possible. But Link is dead. So if we let's assume he's dead, he dies, right? But he supposedly resurrects and comes back to life 100 years later. Why would it take 100 years? If you look at the body of Link, it isn't like it's like reduced to a pulp and hardly anything else. Like, it's pretty much mostly intact. Like, there's nothing too far gone with the body. All the limbs are there. He's not bleeding. Granted, that could be because of the art style, but there was no clear apparent mortal wound. Like, it was still mostly there. And we're talking about technology that's like, it's clearly super advanced, super knowledgeable, super powerful. So why would it take 100 years to, save this dude, which may have been sort of even kind of alive? It's kind of weird. Like, it isn't suggested that he went into a coma, although it does seem kind of similar after being in a slumber for 100 years and awakening and having amnesia. That kind of makes sense, I guess, but 100 years just seems too long. And when I kept thinking about this long time period, it sort of reminded me of something. So if you look at the entire mythos for The Legend of Zelda, you look at the different ones, there are several games that I believe are on record of being about 100 years apart, and there are different heroes, different spirits of the hero that come back. And Skyward Sword sort of, it sets up this continuous, like, revival, resurrection, or of different heroes, reincarnation of different heroes, and then there's also reincarnation of the dark spirit of demise and Ganon and such, and also for Zelda as well. So then there can be different heroes, different spirits all the time, and they come every 100 years or so. So then, what if Link actually died and the spirit left the body and it was gone? It left Hyrule, and they needed to wait 100 years for the spirit of the hero to return to Hyrule, and they used the old body of the Link that died to bring him in there so he could come back and actually have a prepared body to fight Calamity Ganon. That kind of makes sense to me, especially when you consider that Fi was communicating with Zelda, because if all she needed to figure out was, hey look, Link is hurt, let's go heal him, I don't think she would have needed to communicate with Fi, who never communicates with anyone. I think, this is some sort of divine communication that was on a grander level that sort of goes beyond the normal parameters of life here, right? So I think it makes sense that this Link, who was dead or not around for 100 years, was resurrected, and the spirit of the hero returned after 100 years. But here's the question, though. Is it the same spirit of the hero from the events that we learn about with all the memories and the books that we read in Breath of the Wild? Is it the same Link? If you look throughout all the different Legend of Zelda games, excluding, the sequels where it's a direct sequel like Majora's Mask, they are all different heroes, different personalities. I mean, look at the Hero Shade shows that there are different personalities and not just the same Link with different names and sort of legends. Like, the Hero Shade is the hero from Twilight Princess, from Ocarina of Time actually, but he communicates with the hero of Twilight in Twilight Princess. Two different heroes, two different Links at different times communicating with each other. And this shows us that the different heroes that happen throughout the course of history of Hyrule are different Links. They aren't the same person, same current consciousness, spirit, personality, whatever, coming back in different times. They are different ones. So if that's the case, if they are different heroes, what if the hero that comes, the spirit of the hero that comes into the body of Link after 100 years when we start Breath of the Wild is not the same hero from the past, and he just is a blank slate, doesn't have any memories, and they insert the memories, the old memories of the old Link as he explores Hyrule, and he's told what to do. He doesn't really have too much free choice, and that he's like, these are the memories of the old Link, this is what you're supposed to do, and that's it. Like, what if it isn't actually the same Link? It's possible, and if you look at the way they handle the teleportation, it's also kind of disconcerting to me, because Link disassembles into light particles and reassembles elsewhere. And I try to go ahead and do some research on theoretical teleportation and quantum entanglement, and to be honest with you, it sort of went right over my head. I saw some sort of layman terms explanations that basically said, for teleportation at least, right, that teleportation, if it were theoretical teleportation, if it were to be done, right, it would kind of work kind of like a fax machine, where you take piece of paper with information on it, you copy it, and it goes through some sort of, I don't know, wire or electrical waves or what have you, and it goes to a different fax machine, and that information is transcribed to a different piece of paper from the original form. They are copies. So what if this Link that we play throughout Breath of the Wild is just a copy of the original Link that we see in the memories in Breath of the Wild? What if it's a different Link, technically a different Link, just a clone of Link? And what if all this teleportation that's happening is also Link being destroyed and recreated again? That's super, terrifying and weird to me. That's personally, I've loved the idea of teleportation, because I've always thought it as just destroying somebody and creating a copy and putting it elsewhere and not being the same person. Like, your own personal consciousness would be gone, but that's a whole other discussion for probably a different channel, and I don't entirely understand it, so I'm not going to delve much deeper into it. But the point is, if you look at these details, I think it's conceivable to think that maybe the Link that we played through in Breath of the Wild is just not the same Link. It technically isn't, and that's kind of worrisome to me. However, there's a counter argument. I've watched all the memories again, and I've sort of rejogged my memory for Breath of the Wild, and the final memory in the non-DLC memories, by the way, we see Zelda put the Master Sword into the stone to restore itself while Link is going through a slumber of restoration in the Shrine of Resurrection for 100 years, and Zelda speaks to the Deku Tree, and she wants to relay feelings to Link through the Deku Tree, but the Deku Tree tells her, no, why don't you tell him yourself? And the way this is said, they're slowly speaking of Link as if he's still Link. And that gives me hope that the Link we see in Breath of the Wild is still the same Link. So then maybe, this wandering spirit of the hero, maybe it's the same spirit from the past and he simply came back. And going back to the Hero of the Shade from Twilight Princess, even though I sort of use it to suggest that every spirit of the hero is a different hero, it also suggests that maybe a hero that's already dead can still have an involvement with Hyrule, because after all, the Hero of the Shade is the hero of time, and he's still there in Twilight Princess more than 100 years later. He's still around, of course, in spirit form and dead, but he's still communicating with. He came back to Hyrule in some way. So maybe another hero can come back after being dead, and maybe the Link that we sort of learn about in Breath of the Wild through the memories is still the same Link. The spirit of the hero came back. So yeah, maybe that's the story I'm going to stick with. I think the spirit of the hero, I think he did die. I think for sure he died, because why is it the Shrine of Resurrection? Why did it take 100 years? But that spirit of the hero came back to Hyrule, and it was the same spirit of the hero this time around. I'm going to stick to that story, because then I can believe that it was the same Link, and they went on to live happily ever after. However, Link did die along with all of his champion brethren. There's some, it makes sense in all of those different ways. That's what I think, guys, currently. But maybe you guys can sort of tell me a different perspective. Let me know what you guys think on the matter. Is it the same Link? Is it a different Link? I don't know. Maybe you know. But I presented these details. I'm curious what you guys think. So let me know in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching. And I'll see you all really soon. Bye.
I'm surprised to admit it, but I can accept that.